Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham Yahweh Shai, Bahasham Racha Kodesh. Double honors to the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone, and peace and blessings to the elect. And today we're going to go into the book of 1 Kings, the 5th chapter, by continuing from where we left off in the 4th chapter. And just to recap, in the 4th chapter, we basically went over the officers, right? Those that were appointed in different roles as a part of Solomon's, government. You can call it the priests, right? The officers of the 12 regions, and so on and so forth, right? So here in Wisdom Solomon, 1 Kings, the 5th chapter, getting into it, this is going into sort of that rekindling, right? Not that it died, but the reinforcement of the alliance between Israel and, in this case, I guess the Sidonians, right? But more specifically between Solomon and Hiram. Okay. So this is 1 Kings chapter 5, verse 1. And Hiram, king of Tyre, or Tyre, sent his servants unto Solomon, for he had heard that they had anointed him king in the room of his father. Now remember, as it's going to say, for Hiram was ever a lover of David, and so Hiram knew David, right? They had a close bond, right? He helped David and so on and so forth. And obviously, when it says a lover of David, it's not anything perverse, right? Like today, they talk about having a lover, and they think of it in the perverse sense. Okay, the word lover here just says ahab, which means love. All right, but it depending on the context that it's used in, right? So obviously we know the more appropriate use would be something like friends here. Okay, the act of being a friend, so on and so forth. Okay. So when Hiram heard about King Solomon becoming king, he's like, oh wow, David's son, became king. Let me go and sort of give my sort of like, hey, yeah, that's what's up, so on. And Solomon sent to Hiram, saying, thou knowest how that David my father could not build an house unto the name of the Lord Yahweh his God, for the wars which were about him on every side, until the Lord Yahweh put them under the soles of his feet. So David wasn't able to build this temple, right? Because of all the, you look at the life of David, he was always going to war and there was a lot going on, right? And the Lord had this because it was needful for David to do that in order to quiet the region to allow for Solomon's reign to be that of peace. So verse 4 says, but now the Lord Yahweh, my God, hath given me rest on every side, so that there is neither adversary nor evil occurrent. So everything is nice. And it would be in these kinds of times that you would have more of R&D, right? Research and development, agricultural advances. These would be like the times for that, right? Because the focus wouldn't be of war and so on, right? Though you still had your armies and so on, right? But it would be the initiatives would be more towards advancements and buildings and those kinds of things. Verse 5, and behold, I purpose to build an house unto the name of the Lord Yahweh my God. So King Solomon wanted to build this temple, as the Lord told David that it would be Solomon who would build it. As the Lord Yahweh spake unto David my father, saying, thy son, whom I will set up upon thy throne in thy room, he shall build an house unto my name. Thy room not meaning literally like in King David's bedroom, but what he means is in his stead, right? In his office, if you want to put it that way. Now therefore command thou that they hew me cedar trees out of Lebanon, and my servants shall be with thy servants. And unto thee will I give hire for thy servants, according to all that thou shalt appoint. So, bring me some cedar trees out of Lebanon, And we're going to go in a second into why it is, if you've noticed, a lot of buildings and stuff were used especially in the ancient world, you would have like cedar. You hear that a lot when it comes to trees to build. Okay, and one of the reasons being, and I'll look this up, but if I remember correctly, cedar wood has this chemical. It excretes this chemical, either the tree or the wood, that protects it from decay. So it has a very long shelf life, so to speak, and therefore when you use it to build things, they last longer, right? They don't decay easily and have those like termites and stuff come up in there and start chewing them out. So let's look at benefits of building with cedar. Actually, let me just say cedar wood. Let's see, and decay. Okay. So cedar wood is known for its resistance to decay and rot due to its natural preservatives and oils. Okay. So yeah, of course, it's no wood is immune, but cedar is like the best wood. It's almost like the long-lasting type, right? So as you can see, it says cedar is a type of wood that is known for its durability and resistance to rot, making it a popular choice for outdoor structures such as fences and decking and so on, right? Although it's not immune to rot, eventually it does also decay, such as everything, right? But you can see now why cedar wood was used a lot, right? It wasn't just randomly, or that's just the only kind that they had, but it had these specific traits about it that made it more desired when it came to building. So King Solomon asked Hiram to bring get me some of them cedar trees from Lebanon, and I'll send my servants with you, right? They'll work together to get this done. And I will give thee hire for thy servants, right, according to all that thou shalt appoint. So however many servants you've put to this work for me, I'm gonna pay for them. For thou knowest that there is not among us any that can skill to hew timber like the Sidonians, right? So when it came to and hewing is like, chopping it down, right? But when it came to the Sidonians, they had everybody beat, basically. Like they go to work on that thing. Verse 7, and it came to pass when Hiram heard the words of Solomon. Remember, this was a message that was sent from King Solomon back to Hiram, right? So when he heard these words, he rejoiced greatly and said, Blessed be the Lord Yahweh this day, which hath given unto David a wise son over this great people. Now, Hiram was not an Israelite. Just because he said, Blessed be the Lord this day, doesn't mean he's an Israelite. Just because there was an alliance between King David and him, and between King Solomon and him, does not mean he was an Israelite. All right. Keep in mind that there is a difference between the heathen nations and Israel, but it doesn't mean that every heathen is an automatic enemy of Israel, because you did have times like this, for example, where we had alliances with them, right? They did know, and some of them acknowledge our God. Okay, but it doesn't mean that they were Israelites, or they had some like special treatment, or they would get some special treatment when it came to what the Lord has in mind. Okay. Verse 8. And Hiram sent to Solomon, saying, I have considered the things that thou sentest to me for, and I will do all thy desire concerning timber of cedar and concerning timber of fir, right? The fir tree. So they also had, I'm sure, their traits that made them desirable as well. My servants shall bring them down from Lebanon onto the sea, and I will convey them by sea in floats onto the place that thou shalt appoint me, and will cause them to be discharged there. And thou shalt receive them, and thou shalt accomplish my desire in giving food for my household. So Hiram's pay, right, what he requested in return was to be blessed with food, right? Typically, you would imagine in the form of raw goods. It's not like saying, make some like fried rice and chicken and then give it to me. No. you're better off with like, okay, if you want rice, you can give them rice, if it's like whatever they had there, right? Oxen, sheep, all these things. But for a visual, if we look at the Levant map, and we get some images on that. Okay, this is not bad. So I'm going to zoom in here a bit. All right, so what you can see here is you have Lebanon over here, right? And you have Israel over here and so on. The reason Hiram is talking about the sea is because you have the Mediterranean over here. And if you are trying to bring, and these are just estimations, approximations, but if you are trying to bring trees down to Israel, you're gonna cause more work for yourself if you have to have your men or build some contraption to then drag and carry those trees, and there were going to be a lot of trees, you can imagine, all the way down to the different parts in Israel where it would be needed. The smarter thing to do would be to let the water do the heavy lifting, load it onto some ship or boat, because they were also good at that, right? They were also a seafaring people. So load it onto that, and then just bring it by the coast, because this was a coastal area. Bring it by the coast, and wherever it is that they needed it, dock it over there, and it's easily accessible. Okay, so that's why here Hiram is mentioning the conveying, right, bringing them by sea in floats, right? These like boats or floatables to wherever it is Solomon would appoint him. Okay, and then discharge them there. Okay, we'll leave these over here. You do with it as you will. Okay. Verse 10. So Hiram gave Solomon cedar trees and fir trees according to all his desire. And Solomon gave Hiram 20,000 measures of wheat for food to his household, and 20,000 of pure oil. Thus gave Solomon to Hiram year by year. And the Lord Yahweh gave Solomon wisdom. Oh, another thing to highlight is, when we read these verses, we read them sequentially, right? Verse 10, then verse 11, then 12, and keep on going. These are records, right? This is a recorded history. So in recorded history, you don't write down every single detail, every passing second in time. You don't document that. It's the more important things. And then okay, this happened, then this happened, right? So, what's one example? If somebody was to document and say come, I don't know, maybe March of 2025, something major happens that is caused or as a result of like Trump or the new Trump administration or something like that, right? And then somebody was to do a recap and they were to jot this down throughout the past maybe 8 or 12 years leading up to this. They may go with, okay, you had this guy in office, right? I think it was, who was it? Obama, right? Was it? I forgot about all these guys here. Who was president before? Let me see. President in 2015. I should know this. Yeah, it was Obama, right? So, it's like, okay, so Obama was in office. Then in 2016, right? You say that, right? So Obama was in office. Okay. Then in 2016, Trump won the election. He came into office. In 2020, Biden ended up winning the election. And in 2024, Trump won the election again. If you wrote it like this, you're obviously not documenting every single day of every single week of every single month of each year, because that's not important. You're just hitting the main points. Okay, this happened, then this happened, then this happened. And now in a couple of months after Trump won the election, he ended up instituting this, and that's what led to blah. So you can think of it in a similar sense when it comes to the scriptures we're reading of here, because we're reading from one verse to another, but there's passage of time in between. Just like going back to the journal example, between Trump getting in office and Biden getting in office, there's a whole 4-year span in there. But the focus is not on what happened in there. It's more so high level what's happening. So keep that in mind when you read these scriptures, that you may be reading it, oh, next verse. But in actuality, there's time that's passing through, right, from verse to verse. It's basically, really from verse 11, we can tell that between the time of Solomon sending the message to Hiram and getting enough wood or trees to do what he needed to do was a good couple of years, because it says here that Solomon gave him the food year by year, right? Anyway, verse 12, just wanted to mention that. And the Lord Yahweh gave Solomon wisdom, as he promised him, and there was peace between Hiram and Solomon, and they too made a league together. So they formed an alliance there. And King Solomon, right, conscription of laborers. So, and King Solomon raised a levy out of all Israel, and we went over this also briefly in the 4th chapter, right? He raised this levy out of all Israel, and the levy was 30,000 men. So, if you look up here, levy, maybe we can get some synonyms on it as well. Raise a levy. So it says, raise a levy means to establish or collect a charge, such as a tax, fine, or other fee by legal authority, right? Now, let me add in here, levy of men. So, like I gave an example, you had yesterday I gave an example in the 4th chapter about enlisting your men into the military, right? That's like an example. Here, as it says, troops raised by levy. So it says to raise a levy of men is to conscript or enlist men for military service. It can also refer to forcing men to perform labor. So one example they give was King Solomon raised a levy, and we just read that, right, of 30,000 men from all over Israel to work in the Lebanon forest. And as the king, he had the right to do so, right? Okay, so now you know what a levy is here and what's going on. So in verse 14, and he sent them to Lebanon. So he gathered a certain amount of men, 30,000, sent them to Lebanon, 10,000 a month by courses. So 30,000 total and 10,000, each month, right? You will be the workers for this month, you get it. A month they were in Lebanon, and 2 months at home. And Adoniram was over the levy, and we read that in the 4th chapter, right? And Solomon had 70,010 that bear burdens. So a score is 20, right? 3 scores 3 times 20, which is 60. And we know "and" is just another keyword of like addition, right? So if somebody told you he had 3 oranges and 2 apples, how many fruits did he have together? 5, right? So you have that "and." So anyway, 3 score, that's 60, and 10, that's 60 plus 10, you get 70. So Solomon had 70,000 that bear burdens, and 40,000, once again, 4 times 20, that's 80. So 70,000 that bear burdens. So these would be the ones that would carry, right? When you bear the burdens are the things that they would carry. So these would be the ones that would carry the trees or drag them, whatever means they got, but they will be in charge, you can imagine, of transporting them from wherever to wherever. And 80,000 hewers in the mountains, right? So the ones who are actually chopping down the trees. Beside the chief of Solomon's officers, which were over the work, 3,300, which ruled over the people that wrought in the work. So these were in addition to the chiefs that King Solomon already set up, right? You also had these 3,300, which were under them, that had the charge over the people doing the work. Wrought meaning to do, right? And the king commanded, and they brought great stones, costly stones, and hewn stones to lay the foundation of the house. There's a nice, good quality, nice looking stones. And Solomon, and we're not talking about like pebble kind of stones. No, you have some stones that are like flat stones, or sometimes you have big, chunked up stones that you can break up and use it, right? You crack it up nicely, and then you can use it, with for different designs, and then put your little cement or plaster or whatever in between. You got yourself some nice stuff there. Verse 18, and Solomon's builders and Hiram's builders did hew them, and the stone squarers, so they prepared timber and stones to build the house. So this is mainly going into the gathering of the materials, the alliance between Solomon and Hiram, and the preparation to build this house here. Okay. And here for stone squarers, you just have, Giblites, inhabitants of Gebal. So these would be the ones who would, I guess, take care of that role here. Okay. So that pretty much brings us to the end of the book of 1 Kings, the 5th chapter. Lord willing, this was edifying to the elect. In closing, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham Yahushai, Bahasham Racha Akodash. And until next time, Shalom.